Now y'all can be a little bit more positive out there. All these excuses why EVs, electric vehicles, won't work because there's not enough lithium for the batteries, and cobalt is mined by the slave labor in Africa or something. There's all these different issues. Well, listen, stop worrying, start thinking more positively. Here are three investment ideas which I am informing you of that I did. Now, I am not a financial advisor. I am not licensed. I am not certified. I am nothing. But this is something I came across. I've invested in all three of these myself because they were right for me. I'm not saying they're right for you, so do your research. Number one, lithium. Well, there are three ways to get lithium out of the ground. Wait a minute. You thought there was two. No, there's actually three. You can take rocks and smash them to pieces and leach out or whatever, extract out the lithium. That's one. We know about that. Ugly mines. Number two, ISR, in situ recovery. So this is where you do a bunch of wells. There's one well in the center where you inject a solvent, and that is pressed into the ground at high pressure. Then you have a ring of wells around the outside that are pulling out fluids. So what happens is that solvent captures the lithium dissolves and interacts with it. You pull it out of the ground, send that liquid to a processing plant where you extract the lithium, and then what do you do with the solvent? You use it over again, right? ISR. Okay, well, there's a third method to get lithium out of the ground. Brine. What is brine? Think of it as contaminated water. I grew up in Michigan. Brine was always a problem, especially when you're trying to dig oil wells and such, right? You got to get through the brine layer. So brine is water underground that is contaminated with all kinds of different things. Well, guess what? In Canada, there are these extremely large reservoirs of brine that contains lithium, lots of lithium. So E3 lithium in Canada. I think there might be one other company in the same neighborhood. So the idea here is simple. You're reusing oil wells, except instead of going all the way down to get the oil, you stop halfway and bring out the brine, pump it through the existing pipes from the oil well days to a plant where you chemically extract out the lithium and maybe some other minerals. And then what do you do with the leftover brine? Well, you put it back in those same or different pipes, go in the other direction, and pump it back into the ground, back into the brine field. So you get this circular flow going. You pull out brine here, you push it down there, and you extract the lithium. E3 lithium. Let's talk about batteries. ESS Technologies in Wilsonville, Oregon. They're near Portland. ESS Technologies, what they've done is they're making very, very large batteries out of iron and salt. Those are not very bizarre, rare materials. We have a lot of those. So these batteries are big and heavy. They're not as dense. You're not going to use them in electric cars, but they are good for grid connect, right? So each one of these batteries is like the size of a semi-trailer. They're actually using, I believe, the modular containers that you see on ships and such. So each one of those is kind of a battery unit. And you set those in place, connect them to the grid. Now, when the sun shines, you're charging up that battery, right? Wind blows, you're charging up that battery. And you have massive amounts of these at very low cost, relatively speaking, connected to the grid so we can have power when the sun doesn't shine and when the wind doesn't blow. Very, very practical. I love what they're doing here. So ESS Technologies. The third company I wanted to mention was Energy Vault. Energy Vault. Went public through a SPAC. So here's the idea. Remember regenerative braking on your hybrid car? When you want to go fast, you push the gas pedal and that motor propels your car forward. But then when you let off on the gas and you're coasting or want to slow down, it begins to regenerate. Perfect. Let's take that same idea and build a massive building with a bunch of heavy weights in it. When the sun's shining and our solar is cranking and the wind is blowing, let's use it as a motor and pump up baskets full of very, very heavy stuff. Junk concrete from where they tore up the road, old scrap steel, it doesn't matter what it is. Anything heavy, put it in this big baskets. Get a bunch of these baskets. So then what happens? Well, as the sun shines, the wind blows, it lifts this basket up into the air. So what happens when you need that electricity? Well, you reverse this thing and turn that motor into a generator. And now You let that basket slowly fall, and as it falls, it is generating electricity. Simple. No lithium, no cobalt, no traditional battery like we think of batteries. It's all mechanical. Well, except for the generator motor, that obviously is electrical, but we're simply moving heavy weights up and down. And you do this day after day. The technology here should be really reliable. And these buildings don't need to air condition them, don't need to heat them. You do need to keep the rain and snow off them so the parts don't rust and the motor doesn't fry from getting wet. What a great idea. Energy Vault. Do your research on this one. Do your research on all three of these. Energy Vault has several contracts cooking. They seem to be extremely well funded. But I did speak with an engineer in California, and one of the projects out there was canceled. I'm trying to find out why. I don't think they ever got to the point of having the prototype built, or the unit built. By the way, there's running prototypes in, what is it, Sweden, I think? Switzerland? Sweden. So I'm not sure why the California one was canceled. There's three methods. Everybody stop complaining about EV batteries and all that. We'll get it figured out. Just takes time. Some good old human ingenuity. The grace of God to help us through it. We'll get through this. All right. Love you guys. See ya. Bye.